Right, so in this video, I'll be covering how to draw a perfect cube in 2-point perspective. Now, I'm not going to cover 1-point perspective because that's pretty easy. You can just measure the width with a ruler and that'll be your height. That won't be the case in 2-point perspective because the sides are vanishing off into our vanishing points. So we can't really use that measurement. Now, initially I thought, well, I'll draw a perfect square, and if you don't know how to do that, check out my previous video. But I thought, well, I'll start with a perfect square, and I don't know how high the sides need to be, so I just drew some lines for that. And then after looking at it for a while, I realized that if I were to turn it 90 degrees, what I'm actually seeing is two 1-point perspective planes kind of meeting each other in the middle. So I immediately thought, oh, this is simple. I'll just draw a horizon line along the edge of the circle, and I'll treat this as if it were a 1-point perspective, and I can use that width going backwards. I know how to translate that. You can see how to do that in my first video. So I did that, but what I got did not look like a square at all. It looked very rectangular. Um, and I was very confused because you'd think that the two vanishing points off to the sides would determine the lens angle, and therefore I'd get perfect cubes every time. But that wasn't the case, and I'm honestly not sure why. Still trying to figure it out. If anybody knows, I'd be very interested in knowing. Regardless, we don't really have to understand something to find a way to do it. So what I did was I studied cubes in 3D. So I went into Blender and I made really long lines along the diagonals of a cube, and as you can see, they are vanishing off to a point like I'd expect. And here just note that they're a bit off, not exactly symmetrical, just because Blender doesn't do perfect 2-point. But that wasn't off, it was the distance that was off. What puzzles me is why aren't those points in a square? That's what would make sense to me. But anyways, they are what they are, and I went ahead and I took out the square, and I just did the experiment with diagonals, and this time I took care to align the view just so that you could also see the horizon line clearly, and the two vanishing points, and so that it was in perfect 2-point perspective, or as perfect as I could get it. So as you can see, I could move this diagonal, which would stand as the diagonal for the side of the squares, and no matter where I moved it, it still vanished off to the 1 point. So next I just kind of traced this and I measured it with a ruler, and I tried to find some sort of relationship, and eventually I realized that the height might be the length of the diagonal from the center of our cone vision to the outer point, and that turned out to be true. So to make a perfect cube, what you do is first you need to find that point, and to do that you'll want to have your horizon line drawn with your two vanishing points and the center marked. Using that measurement from the center to one of the vanishing points, you make the height, and then you just draw a line from the center to that point, and you get the diagonal. You can measure this length, or in Photoshop you can just transform it, and now that is the real length that the vanishing point should be. Now I'm going to start with a perfect square, and then I'm going to make a copy of this so you can see in comparison how this method looks to our previous one. First, I'm going to draw a line from the corner to our new vanishing point, and this line could actually be in the other corner, just as long as it cuts the square diagonally, but it's much easier to do it on this front side. And then I'm going to draw a line straight up, and because of the point we chose and how we drew our diagonal, this has to be this back corner over here. And it'll meet that line, and that's where our height is. And from there, we can just use our regular vanishing points to get the top edges. And there's your cube, and as you can see, it looks so much better than the other one. And this one's kind of in the middle, but I have tried it in different positions and it does work. And although it's kind of frustrating not understanding why this is the way it is easier, I think, than many of the other methods I saw. I can't really see myself using the other methods, not even once in a while, just to check how close my perspective studies might be. They were that complicated. With this, I can see myself even using it in a drawing. You're not even limited to cubes. This is just one more tool in our tool set, and all it does is it translates a width into a height. So you don't even have to be doing cubes for this to be useful. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video and you found it useful as well. If you have any questions, leave a comment. Otherwise, in the next video, I'm going to cover the question that kind of made me start doing all those perspective studies that you saw in the first video, and that is, how do you rotate an object perfectly in two-point perspective? How do you find out where that second vanishing point is?